take a seat. Go ahead.
We are going to the moon. Our time is coming soon. We are going to the moon. Our time is coming soon. We are going to the moon. Our time is coming soon. We are going to the moon.
Thank you. Greetings and welcome. I'm sure that you guys have got your fill of people talking about the future today, but we are looking to talk about the future of humanity in space with this panel. And we have some great group of guests. I'll go through and make my introductions. We have Grant Bladesdale to my left. He is the co-founder of Kubernetes Space, an early innovator in applying blockchain technology to various industries. Grant is the co-founder and leading blockchain analytics and AML company and the marketplace for space assets. So Kubernetes Space is the company, and they're looking to provide access to space assets for every human that's on the planet, right?
Yeah, sure, if you want to take it like that.
Yeah, definitely. Then we have Scarlett Arana, founder of BitBasil.
Yeah!
She is a Miami native. She is a trained architect, a geospatial scientist, and the co-founder of the Miami blockchain startup BitBasil. Scarlett has been on the forefront of the Miami tech movement over the past decade, and she has spearheaded the community initiatives across the blockchain, XR, space tech, and ocean tech ecosystems, plus a number of other social impact causes. Scarlett's passion is educating young women about emerging technology and guiding them on the pathway towards success. Then we have Deanna Bailey. She is the CEO of Lunargistics. She is an established cryptocurrency and blockchain and space enthusiast, a former Army medic with 18 years and 4 combat tours. She was awarded the Bronze Star as a result. She is an expert in government contracts, international relations, and an expert leader. She has been on the project lead on multi-million-dollar projects in foreign countries to include building brands of new hospitals, conception to fully operational. Transitioning into blockchain was easy for her. Her work began in 2017 for an independent blockchain company. There, she was exposed to regulatory process, bridging the blockchain to the US dollar. She went on to be the VP of the business development for GoCoin, a third-party blockchain payment processor specializing in turnkey merchant solutions. Currently, she serves as the Chief Executive Officer of Lunargistics, a space technology company, and serves on the Texas Blockchain Council, assisting in writing Texas blockchain legislation. Next, we have Irina Litchfield, a partner for Percival Capital, and a partner and director at DNA, a global investor, networking consulting firm. She is a co-founder and chairwoman of Space Interactions, Space Situational Awareness Company. She is a senior advisor at Space Fund, principal fund Space Labs, advisor to ProChain Capital, and co-founding advisor at ABE, a global securities exchange.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
And next we have Sam Reed. He is the CEO of Geometric Energy Corporation.
Yeah.
And the founder of Protocol, as well as Beta, RHO, Gamma, Kappa. And his passion for science, mathematics, and high technology entrepreneurship led him to invent, develop, and commercialize a variety of technology with a present focus on energy systems, DeFi, aerospace systems, and a space mission design. He holds a position at the Canadian Space Agency and is also a senior mathematician and technologist for Kepler Aerospace. Hey guys. So these are our panel members, and some of our discussion is going to go into the accessibility of space. What a great time to be alive right now, when the richest people on our planet are trying to get off it, and we get to reap the benefits of it. Eventually, hopefully they will let us all on their vehicles to explore space, and not because we have to, because we want to. So some of the stuff we were going to talk about is like, what will we do with all of the existing assets that are in space? Are they garbage? Or do we reclaim them? Can we reutilize them? Do they have interoperable parts that we can take advantage of and utilize without international incident? You know, some of those questions we will hopefully develop some answers to on this panel. So one of the main things we want to talk about is the accessibility of space. So Scarlett, if you would like to go into your thoughts on accessibility.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So everybody knows a little bit my background. I actually was born and raised here and been part of building blockchain ecosystems as well. I was one of the main advisors for the Blockchain Center for Spatial Computing and XR. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the space economy. One of the things that most people have a misconception is that the space economy is for only astronauts or academia or some sorts. But I can reassure you that that is false. It's actually accessible for everyone, meaning that everybody has an opportunity to be part of the space economy. Here in this talk, we're going to talk about the intersection of blockchain and space tech and what that looks like. So we're going to see how, literally, how you can take Bitcoin to the moon, which is unbelievable. And what that looks like in preserving those digital assets and being part of it. That means both private and public sectors are looking for basically you, the community, to help build the space economy and be part of that. So, and I'd definitely love to answer questions and how a community and a space community and how you can accelerate the space economy utilizing blockchain technology.
I think she made a few important points there, especially for the public, which is to understand that this market, well, it's technically, objectively going to be the only limitless or unlimited market in mankind's history. The other thing that it's not just a few billionaires and NASA and a few other state organizations. There's thousands of companies and great entrepreneurs, you know, just like some on this stage, who are active in this market and, you know, really taking it out into a different realm. And, you know, from us as a platform, when she speaks about access, it's about understanding that that market needs you guys, and there's the biggest, maybe economic opportunity, but also benefits here on Earth by enabling you guys to have access to that, and in our view at Copernic Space, in mainly two ways, right? So we view ourselves as like the Web3 platform for space assets and investments. So what does that mean? That means give the retail market and the wider commercial market a commercialization standard, a digital commercialization standard for all these great space companies, so they can much more efficiently on a wider commercial scale generate revenue, new revenue streams, etc. But for the first time, give access to the retail market to have actual ownership in real assets that are in space, or investment access to all these great entrepreneurs. And tokenization of the space economy and providing it on a nice user interface like a marketplace to enable you to do that is going to be really the catalyst, the fuel and the engine for all this new economy that's going to be built, and you guys will be able to have ownership in it.
So Grant, do you feel that we will be able to utilize existing space assets with that program, with those methods?
Yeah, one really cool thing is, I know you love the example of assets that are out there and they're kind of useless.
They're already in space.
Right, and they're not being, let's say, utilized to their full potential or whatever, is, you know, like fractionalization of those assets, giving you guys the capability to, you know, buy a portion of that and incentivize entities to then use that in a new manner that generates revenue or provides value that you can then benefit off of as a token holder or a fractionalized owner of that satellite, so to say. That's actually going to be how this economy is going to work, and it's coming a lot faster than you think. We're looking at bringing fractionalized ownership to a real asset in space, actually going to the moon this year, right? So it being tied to revenue, all these other sort of securities questions are also going to develop over the years, but it's up to entrepreneurs like us to push those standards and create those standards in those markets.
Yeah, and if I can caveat after that a little bit. So Grant and I actually do similar things, and we have a little bit of a different stance on where we are right now. So just to make it clear, we all want to push to have assets on the open market. But unfortunately, when you want to access space, there's no way to get around government. You just can't. And national security is a thing. So if you put a token on the open market, we all know you don't have any control of it. You can't control who buys it. You can't see it after the fact. It's out, it's open, it's there for everybody. So what happens when you have a NASA-supported program and now somebody in North Korea has the rights to that asset? And these are the things that we're going to have to figure out, but right now, unfortunately that's where we're at. Like, we have this technology we can dream with, and
I can solve that KYC sanctions question in a technical, right now. I can tell you how that's done in the platform. You KYC every single user, and then you tie their ownership in the platform to their wallet. It's a Web3 platform. Each NFT that represents a space asset is programmed that you cannot trade it to any wallet that is not whitelisted within this platform. And that's how you control secondary market trades of NFTs to sanctioned entities.
Very good, very good.
In imaginary world. Okay,
I didn't hear what she said, but code isn't imaginary.
So reality is such, and a month ago things changed much dramatically to where your national security is much bigger risk right now. For those of you who do not know, Russia launched hypersonic missile at one of their assets, satellite assets, last month. So at this point, Russia is #1 in superiority of weapons. That is the reality. What that means for access to space, much tighter rules. And so while it would be amazing to live in a world where all the access and all of your KYCs will work for access to space, that's just not going to be the reality.
Well, just so you know, on our platform, Chinese nationals, for example, can't buy an asset hosted by a US space company. You know, so like all these things are going to happen, and nothing's foolproof. Before I built Copernic Space, I built CoinFirm, which is a leading regulatory tech AML provider in the crypto space. I'm telling you, it's always a game. They're always chasing.
These are different games. Your financial product game is completely different game than what is happening in space and when national security is at stake.
I understand.
Okay, those are two different things. And you want
you guys are really buzz-killing.
You want them to be different because you want to live in a world where you can sleep at night, okay? So,
Arena! Woo!
National security for whatever reasons and think that it's, you know, it is a different world. Financial innovation is a different risks. Doing things in crypto world with DeFi, pushing forward the envelope, that's not how it works with national security.
Yeah!
And here's the thing, I never said I'm doing everything at once, by the way, did I? Trust me.
Eat an elephant, one bite at a time, right?
So I definitely want to break away in the sense that we want to announce that space tourism is reality. So we're NASA, as you've already heard, is sending Artemis, and there's several programs, even putting the first woman on the moon.
Yeah!
Which is really exciting. So they're planning to do that as early as 2025, yes. It was supposed to be 2024, but it was pushed back. But which is really exciting, not only to empower women to go into technology, and also the possibility, yes, we are returning back to the moon. So what that means is creating infrastructure where blockchain can help accelerate a lot of that technology, from anything from creating a logistics issue, tokenizations, or even safety. Everything that happens in space has to take in consideration. You're talking about smart contracts, between multiple organizations and how effective that could get. So, so you always wonder, how can I get involved? Look at space tourism. So we need more space accounting, more space lawyers to get involved, more innovation to help you develop this. We know now that the private sector is also looking at creating infrastructure like Space Lab by 2027, and having privatization similar to ISS. So it's really exciting time to be part of the space movement. So this idea of Earth, space, space, moon, the intersection of cislunar, what that looks like. We can run simulation even on a metaverse, you know, so that people can partake and run simulation, so you can get involved and help in the private and public sector to bring more innovation in these different sectors. So I'm really excited to be part in all that space movement, and really and further the talks about the Artemis Program, which is in partnership with the private sectors. You might have heard of SpaceX, and even Blue Origin, who wants to have a foot in the door on the moon. So it's really exciting when we are starting to hear having these conversations, to have the first woman that has been, so to increase diversity. You know, we want to see more innovation to help facilitate all that.
Yeah, so to sort of speak to like space accessibility, which was the original question, I guess, I think like I'm focusing on two approaches. One is to take advantage of existing space infrastructure, so like existing satellite constellation like Inmarsat, and then have SATCOM ground terminals like ones from Orbcomm to distribute to users to be able to connect with that, and then have a Web3 experience. Like I'm focusing a lot on meta oracles, which are like an oracle aggregation system where users can have data, like SATCOM data rewards for operating nodes. So that's taking advantage of existing stuff, and then focusing on new space missions where you can launch new payloads that you invent, and spacecraft buses that get deployed on rideshare missions in Earth orbit, and lunar orbit is like what we're doing. So yeah, obviously there's like a lot of national security concerns about owning and operating that sort of stuff, and KYC is important on people who have access to what we're doing. Like one of the things is screens in space where you can have pixelated claiming of what's on the screen, and then there's like a YouTube stream of cameras capturing that, as well as cameras looking down at the Earth from Earth orbit, so that you can have VR access to being like an astronaut in a spacewalk for a sort of like collective consciousness upgrade type ideas of the overview effect for everybody and things like that. So I think there's a lot of decentralized experiences and Web3 connected ways people can interact with existing space infrastructure, as well as create new, you know, more people creating more missions, like SpaceX and other launch service providers are creating lots of opportunities for smaller companies and new startups and new kind of crypto space ideas to come into play, where you can launch a CubeSat or something that, you know, only costs millions of dollars instead of hundreds of millions of dollars to pull it off. So
yeah, I love Sam, by the way. Sam's, you know, I've known him for a few years, and he's one of the earliest people who, in conversations I had, and I've been working on Copernic Space for 6 years almost now, where he always blows me away with. And listen, he just illustrated, like, to the regulatory thing. There's countless assets in space already that are launching that can be provided to the retail market that don't fit into these huge questions and hurdles. And another big thing about this space that people need to understand, it's decentralization. All these cases and for ownership and experiences that Sam just defined. And it's also extremely low when it comes to regulatory element, right? It's perfectly made for integrations of this technology, not just in very specific, you know, kind of hardware-based manners. You know, you can see what Space Chain is doing with putting nodes up in space to actually create a physical, let's say, financial infrastructure there. But, you know, bring it into the more digital realm. So once again, space assets are a thing that can come to the market soon, very soon, and you can have ownership in and economically participate in the space market. Which exact case it's going to be throughout all this, that's going to develop and build, and the regulatory requirements is going to build around it. When we came out with CoinFirm in 2015-16, and we said, hey, we're doing AML analytics for crypto, people go, what the fuck are you talking about? They go, crypto's about money laundering on one side, and then the other side says, well, we're never going to have AML, and they were both wrong, right? There's this middle ground that's going to work, and it's going to be fascinating seeing how people like
comparing crypto to space. So there are like interesting definitions and comparatives. For example, you know, if you were early to crypto space and you bought Bitcoin in 2011, you know, you're doing well. And sure, actually, in a new space economy, you can now be participating in it. And that's exactly how early it is. But these are two different industries. This is not go build and we'll regulate it later. It's just not. And I think that it's I mean, what is the benefits for people here right now to understand it? You know, there's no benefit, and that's not the truth. That's not how it works. And so, it's a waste of money.
You know, in regard to the comment on
Thank you, guys.
nationalism in space, do you think the future of space has room for nationalistic values? You know, I mean, it's space, you know, and shouldn't we break away from all of the problems that we're creating and dealing with here?
Well, right, so we should...
This is a blanket approach. It's like, no, there's no cases where this doesn't apply. Like, I'm sorry, there are cases where national security...
There's just a reality, okay? So now, we were talking about it. How do we give hope to humanity before? Because, you know, we can't figure out how to be alive on this planet without punching each other in the face all the time. What are we going to do in space? What are we going to be in those close quarters where actually space constantly tries to...
define a use case so I know what
you know, we figured it out, right? Transportation, point-to-point spaceports. That's a true opportunity for you guys now. So if you want to think about how you can participate in the new economy, start looking at transportation upgrades. This year you will see a lot of interesting opportunities coming up in America, in your specific states, to where there will be grants, there will be a lot of money and investments as well that are going to be dedicated to investment in point-to-point spaceport. Point-to-point spaceport, just to clarify what that means, it means that you can go in Mach 1 very fast, right? From New York to Puerto Rico in 40 minutes, where you can travel in 2 hours to Asia. When we make our world smaller place, where your backyard is Asia, that's when we can connect together and explore the world. But, you know, my point to you today, why I came really here, is to really encourage all of you to understand that the space industry is evolving and advancing. And it is also happening because of what happened a month ago. It is because of this new space race. It is because of the reality of space war now is here. And it is the public information that Russia did what they did and China did what they did. It will bring opportunities for you, for each one of you. And whether you're in PR and marketing, whether you know how to build business models, whether you are in AI or blockchain or whatever it is, the space industry needs you. And so to me, that message is for you, is that access is not necessarily through owning an asset in space, but it is from you coming into the industry and doing what you do best in your world and combining it in the space opportunity. So keep your eyes open for that.
Yep.
And I have to piggyback on that. I think that's amazing, and I think why we're talking about that here is so we can develop the next form of exchange in space. You know, why should, I feel that in space, we're going to come up with a new metric, and it's going to, for exchange, and it's going to be actual minutes in space, the time in space. Like you have 40 minutes, this experiment takes 40 minutes, you can facilitate that experiment. And that is the exchange. The time is going to be the real asset. Just like our lives, time is the real asset. Time is the value that we have. It's just, we have a monetary exchange for other people's time. And I think, you know, if we are going to create the next level of human, we should be looking at, when we expand, what foundational values are we going to take on the expansion? And I don't think it's going to be based off of, I came from this country or I came from this. It defeats the purpose of why we're trying to access space. You know, we are all unified on the pale blue dot, like Sagan said, you know, it's... So we want to put the best minds, the most advanced thinking, the most out-of-the-box thinking together to establish the foundation of how we're going to build this space-faring economy, you know?
Well, my question to everybody is all the cool stuff Irina just described, you know, these spaceports, these sort of new transportation capabilities that are in development. Would you like to help finance that? Would you like to have a financial investment in that, yes? Okay, then this is what I'm talking about. Whether we want to argue about, you know, national security threats, this or that, these companies, all these entrepreneurs, etc., there's not enough capital and liquidity in the market for them the way the market is set right now. You have X amount of space VCs who actually, interestingly enough, these funds are quite small for the most part. Then you have the nation states who usually give some of these projects their early first step through a government grant. But through my experience about being around crypto for about 8 years, being around the ICO space, you can look what happened with GameStop last year, where, you know, the public just said, hey, we're going to do this, and they'll eat a big hedge fund in a day, right? And space is one of the most ubiquitously passionate loved things in mankind's history. You know, you met someone, you're like, hey, you like space? They're like, nah, I hate that, man. I hate space. So our thing at what we're doing, whether it's ownership of assets or it's providing and opening an avenue for the retail market and its liquidity to have ownership through an investment sense into these space ventures projects. You can even do it for a satellite itself. So when we talk about fractional ownership of the satellite, you can tie future revenues to it through an actual crowdfunding sort of token sale, right? These are all things that can happen. There are some regulatory hurdles, but those are mainly securities hurdles.
What is the benefit of an investor in that type of program?
For an investor?
Oh no, any investor, like any individual that wants to own an asset in space, other than like having a picture of it on their phone, like what is the actual functionality?
Well, it's all in the use case. So if we're talking about, okay, I'm going to, let's take a company like iSci, who's doing just really amazing forward stuff when it comes to satellites in the market. Let's say with their next big satellite, they're like, you know what, I don't want to go through anyone here who's done fundraising with VCs, you know how fun this is. Do a 6-month, you know, go through this process, try to raise it through the VC, lose power, lose equity, probably bring on some board member who's going to just give you crap all the time. So, you know what, let's ditch that. Let the people raise it. Let them give me 100 mil. I'm going to tokenize all of that, give them 20% of the revenue share in the future of that satellite. These are the models that are going to be developing over the next, I'll give 5 years.
Yeah, so to speak to like the time use case, I think that's really important, which is why I created XI Protocol, which is the utility for time being displayed on a satellite advertising screen, as well as, which doesn't have any light pollution, is inside the CubeSat, as well as rewards for time reporting with SATCOM data. So I think that that is a really important thing, and that decentralizing time access in space is like an important utility. So that's kind of like why we did that. So I'm a fan of that you brought that up.
When he told me that the first time, I couldn't wrap my head around it too much, so I'm glad you guys connected on it.
Yeah, definitely. That's my frame of mind. You know, I mean, time is the ultimate currency, and especially when we look at, you know, there's like 74 countries that have space programs. Like 14 of them or so have sent people to space. You know, what about the other ones? What about the other 60? You know, with accessibility and like what SpaceX is doing, we basically have the opportunity to facilitate a space program for a country. You know, we can go to them with an out-of-the-box for $1 billion. We will let you stand on the shoulders of everything the current space programs have developed thus far, and you can launch your 5 national heroes to space. They can facilitate some, you know, experimentation for how an adhesive catalyzes in a future manufacturing process for low gravity, and we can bring them back down and let them, you know, inspire their country to think on a different level. You know, to think of anybody has access to space now. It's not just big countries. You know.
Can I bring a use case for that? So, what he's talking about is, you know, will soon be accessible to you guys. It's just all a matter of how much capital really you have. These costs are still quite big. One thing, you know, we're going to announce formally soon, I'm not going to name the company yet, but what you will be able to do through our platform within the next couple months is just like that, but in the digital marketplace process, request payload space on a rover that's actually launching on SpaceX and landing on the lunar South Pole in December. And if you want to, you know, be the first crypto company on the moon, technically, I was talking to somebody, I hope they're in the crowd, where they want to put an IoT device on it. We want to get fashion brands on it. And then you have an NFT that represents your ownership of that space, a unique asset that you can fractionalize and resell in the market. So imagine buying like a piece of a Gucci scarf that's literally on the moon as an NFT. in an actual volume grams format, and then have a secondary. That's the space asset market. That's space ownership.
So if you land, if your asset lands on the part of the moon that I own, can like
these are these legal battles that are going to be figured out. I mean, period.
But here's the thing too, right? Okay, so we're talking, you know, national security, all this stuff. Who's responsible when it fucks up in space? Like when something happens and it really causes an issue, are the people holding the NFTs responsible? Is the company that? These are all things that have to be
The
sorted out.
company that's doing it. It's not a hard question. The company signed sales agreement. I mean, I don't. They have their legal responsibilities under that.
I didn't hear what you said. What'd you say? Sorry.
We'll do it off stage. We'll go into the deeper off stage.
So,
but this is what we're saying though. This is what we're moving to. They should know, right? Like if you guys are going to go and you're going to buy assets, you should know everything that goes along with it. You should know what you're buying. You should know what you're responsible for, because these things happen, right?
So I mean, I think the corporation doing the offering is like liable. So like Geometric Energy Corporation is liable for my offering of that. You would have this utility of satellite time or whatever. So if my satellite blows up, that's like my liability. So like, you know, everyone would come sue me or whatever.
Right, but if you're buying an NFT that guarantees you rights, right? So like, I think the way the verbiage, the way the contract, I think all of that is super important because you have to know what you're liable for.
That's what I mean. It's figured out in the sales contract between the buyers. Like these are things that are existing today, and it's sometimes it's a struggle to transition it into a digital marketplace setting. But you know, we're not talking about having, you know, no terms and conditions on platforms or no sales agreements between these parties. You just got to put it in a digital format.
Well, and just so you guys know, when we're talking space assets, we're not even just talking like rovers and satellites. NASA's going to put up a hotel in 2024, right? Yeah, so NASA's putting up a hotel in 2024. I believe the new ISS is going to hold like 100 people in it. And there's
one starship.
Yeah, there's several countries or several companies that are actually working to colonize the moon right now. So it's coming, and like our kids, yeah,
and countries.
Yeah, and countries. So our kids, this is going to be their reality. They're going to be able to live on another planet in their lifetime.
And for those who are wondering why we're going to the moon,
because
why not?
This is why, because China does not participate in the agreement, okay? So they don't participate, and China said, we're going to go, we're going to get there, and then we're going to own the moon, and then you come to our backyard. That's why NASA, that's why all of the subsidies that you're seeing right now is going to the moon. It's a space war. Wake up, people. We are in a space war right now, and it's accelerating more and more and more. By the end of this year, you're going to be talking about it. You will be talking about it, just like you're talking about other topics right now that are dividing the country and the world and blah, 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 blah. Space war is going to be on the minds and the mouths of all Americans. And it better be sooner. That's why we're going to moon. That's why what's happening is happening right now.
Luckily, we have a Space Force.
Yeah. So,
Actually, right, it is. Space Force have been protecting our assets for quite a while now. Look, Google Space War shadow attacks. You will see what's happening right now.
There's like a lot of mutually assured destruction type demonstrations and things, but I don't think there's actually like space wars going on presently in that sense actively,
there is.
in an adversarial sense from one to the other, and if like, you know, that.
Okay, so shadow attacks consistently are deployed almost on a daily basis. Almost on a daily basis. It caused billions of dollars worth of revenue loss for us. And if it wasn't for Space Force, we'd be eating quite a horrible pickle right now. And you know, this is the world. Just so we know what we're talking about, what the consequences are for the space war, and you know where consequences can lead while we are throwing garbage at each other. That's what we're doing right now. We're just throwing space debris at each other, at our satellites, and creating more problems. No internet,
like
no GPS. All of a sudden, your Netflix is not going to work, and you know, all the social infrastructure is going to work. This is, I mean, it's all transparent, it's all out there, it's all Bill described, people are just not paying attention to it.
Yeah, I just notice how the US need not demonstrate its supremacy. The other people are trying to like, look, I can do hypersonic stuff. It's like, yeah,
Right,
I did
right.
that a fucking while ago.
Well, and so that's the, okay
We're
guys,
just catching up.
that we actually, so the state of affairs is such, US government identified that they want to empower American entrepreneurs and go and develop space, go in space, develop in space services. That's why we have Elon Musk doing what he's doing. He's heavily subsidized. You all know that. And that is the thesis of US government. US government is not going to go and build hypersonic missile military ports. You know what we'll build? Point-to-point spaceports. We will elevate our country. We will elevate the world through our ingenuity. And really, the war right now is the war between the totalitarian regime and the freedom. And luckily for us, we are living in a free world where we can sit there and imagine all kinds of bubbles that would, you know, that might work and not might.
Here's the thing, you guys got to finance it though. You guys have to finance it because, you know, if China, one benefit of being, you know, a kind of dictatorial communist party centralized government is if you make a decision, that goes. You know.
Have you lived in such a government? Do you know what it's like? You know what? I come from Soviet Union. I lived there.
And I live in Warsaw, Poland, and my people died
and
under
that's not
communism
where
for
you want
decades.
to
What's
be.
the point? What's the
So
point?
that all the tragedy and all the struggle has got us to this point, and the ability to innovate like we have now. So what we have to ask ourselves is, how do we change the mentality when we get there? How do we get rid of the hoarding mentality of humans? Like, this is my water. Now you need it. You have to go through us. You know, and instead of, how do we break that mentality? This is we're at the cusp to be able to build that right now. And it's these free ideals that are going to help establish, I mean, it's like throwing stuff at a wall. Something is going to stick, hopefully, you know, and we will be able to have an impression on the next level of humanity, you know? Please, please.
Definitely, I want to. Oh boy.
She's been waiting so patiently.
So you know, I'm fully aware because I'm actually a geospatial scientist. That's somebody who actually uses satellites and remote sensing. But I think the most important part, you know, we did a big activation with Diane Proctor. She was part of Inspiration 4. And what she wanted to do as a takeaway for everybody here as well is to talk about the overview effect. For those who don't know what the overview effect is basically Earth as a whole. It's what astronauts experience for the very first time, recognizing that there's only one Earth and we're all living in it. As it is right now, there's no humanity backup. So therefore, we have to protect what we have. Every means possible. Because there's really no boundaries between one country and another. And it's very important to understand that through this technology innovation, we can actually improve situations like climate change, sea level rise, and even health and agriculture. Everybody here must understand that we live on spaceship Earth, meaning you're born, you most likely will die on this blue planet if we don't all get along. That's why the overview effect is so important, because it does affect us all. And if we want to reach interstellar, we all have to kind of play along. And as we are all one human race. So please understand that these overview effects, the NFT, by the way, 100% of the proceeds went to St. Jude's, the nonprofit, because it is to talk to the story. It's like, why are we here? What's our purpose?
Last thing I promise I'm going to say to that is when we talk about ownership of space assets, I want people to understand that it fits into what she's saying, to where, for example, we work with an organization called Saving the Survivors that helps fight animal poaching in South Africa. We have use cases where we want to enable better satellite imagery access and data through our platform so that they can apply that on the ground and stop using radios and going around huge swaths of territory. This is what we mean by ownership of space assets, at least for us, that it's a much wider thing that has a benefit to each one of you on Earth, not just financially or economically or all this hype stuff, but like literally on the ground applications. So I love the passion you guys have and the panelists. I've been in crypto conferences for 8 years. It's by far the most passionate one I've seen. So congrats to you guys.
Yes, and thank everybody. And I love the overview effect. That's like, you know, that's the catalyst for change. That's why Astronaut exists. My company that I co-founded, and you know, the more that we can provide and help people process that effect, the better that we can catalyze the change on Earth, so we can become the unified species that we are. So, but
That's what your company does,
panel.
right? Your company takes people to.
We facilitate access to space.
Yes.
Yes.
On the overview effect point, if you check out noclip.org, that's our satellite where we're doing the decentralized VR overview effect thing.
That's amazing. I'm definitely going to check that out. But thank everybody. We appreciate your time, and
All
look forward to
right.
seeing you around.
Thank you to our panel.